Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. I am 30 plus hours into my playthrough of Kingdom Come Deliverance, having an amazing time, and I believe that's far enough in for me to start doing some guides on the game. And so I wanted to give some of the people who are just starting out some tips that will hopefully make their playthroughs significantly easier. Before we get into that though, I do want to announce that we are going to do a giveaway on the channel. So I'm going to give away a free copy of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 on Steam to one lucky fan. We'll do the giveaway tomorrow evening around 9 p.m. on my live stream. All you have to do is there's a link down in the description for my Discord. Make sure that you go ahead and join. I always use one of the rooms there to go ahead and announce that the giveaway has started. Whoever responds first, once things have been kicked off, I'll go ahead and send them a Steam key so that they can have their free copy of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Big thanks to Rob, a longtime subscriber who actually donated the money and asked me to do this. He knows I love doing giveaways, and so it's awesome to be able to do this one. And you know what? This has probably motivated me. I'll probably try to do the exact same thing when Avowed comes out. All right, anyway, let's go ahead and start getting into the tips. Tip number 1. Pay attention to game saves. So Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has an interesting save system. The game will autosave sometimes when you complete quests or when you make significant progress, and it'll autosave if you sleep in your own bed or if you use the bathhouses that are in the game. If you want to manually save, you have to use an item called a Savior Snap, which is going to allow you to save the game plus heal you by 10 and temporarily increases your strength, vitality, and agility. You can either drink this potion to manually save, or you can go into the menu to save as well. But keep in mind, this is a limited use feature. You have to either buy or craft the Savior Snaps in order to utilize them. So it's really advantageous to pay attention when the game has saved. If it is not saved for an hour and a half, you want to know that and probably just do a manual save of your own. Whereas if you know, all right, I just recently completed a quest, or I just recently slept, so I do have a recent save if something goes bad, then you know you don't have to burn another use of this item. So as you get further in the game, this isn't nearly as big a deal. You can stack up as much of this as you like, but earlier in the game, it's definitely something that you're going to want to track. Keep in mind, only Savior Snaps will save your game. Regular snaps are just alcohol and they won't do anything further. Tip number 2, use your journal. So on mouse and keyboard, I'm not sure what button it is on controller. If you press J, then it'll come up with this journal. And it's gonna have all your quests separated out between main quest, side quest, and then tasks. So main quests obviously are going to progress the main story. Side quests don't progress the main story, but they have a lot of story content, and some of the writing there is really cool. So it's something entertaining that you can do that isn't directly related to the main story. Tasks are more like fetch quests. So go here and kill this person, or go here and retrieve this particular object. Because everything in this game is of a higher level of quality than usual, even the fetch quest will still give you some nice entertaining dialogue. There'll be some laughs, things of that nature, but it's certainly not going to have the level of depth that you would see in the side quest and main quest. So make sure you know what type of quest you're doing so you can ensure you are getting the type of experience that you want. Tip number 3, prioritize your friends. So towards the beginning of the game, you are going to be separated from your horse, Pebbles, and from your dog, Mutt. And I highly recommend that you prioritize getting both of them back once again. Pebbles is important because you want to have your own horse. This is going to ensure that you're able to increase horsemanship on a regular basis. It'll make it much easier to get around on the map. And unique named horses all have an upgrade that can only be reached based on how much you have used them. So the earlier that you get Pebbles, the sooner you'll be able to upgrade her to her true legendary status. And there are other horses in the game with unique names who you could do the same thing with as well. There's not a specific quest that tells you where to get pebbles, and I'm not going to spoil it here, but it is relatively easy to figure out where she is. You will get a specific quest for Mutt, and I definitely recommend again that you prioritize moving forward in that. Your Houndmaster skill for the most part will not move until you get access to Mutt, and just in general, having Mutt on your team makes a lot of things easier. He's great in combat. You can sick him on enemies. He can help you hunt. He can seek out different items for you. He'll bark if there are enemies that are close by. There's just a ton of different reasons why having Mutt in the party is to your advantage. So absolutely, you want to prioritize getting both of them as soon as possible. Tip number 4, beds have storage. So I mentioned before that you can sleep in order to save your game, and it's actually necessary to do that throughout your adventure because you're going to need to replenish your energy. Now, you can sleep in any bed technically, but if you sleep in somebody else's bed, it'll be considered a crime if you're caught. So it's always best to sleep in your own bed. Sometimes you'll get a bed for free based on starting a particular quest line, and then other times you'll have to actually purchase a bed, which you can do from an inn. And anytime you do that, I highly recommend that you take the option to ask, can I hold on to this bed for a longer period of time, which is going to give you that bed permanently and make it a permanent spot where you can rest whenever you need to. Most of the time when you're around a bed that actually belongs to you, it'll also be paired with a storage chest where you can drop anything that you don't need. It's definitely important that you take advantage of this because managing encumbrance is a big deal in this game. There's a ton of items, a ton of loot, and you don't want to have anything on your person that you don't need to. So all of that extra blacksmithing items or anything that you want to keep track of but don't want actually cluttering up your inventory, you can drop it in your chest and then it will be available for you at any bed that you own. Also keep in mind that the game will only save if you rest in your bed. So resting in other people's beds will allow you to replenish energy, but it will not save your game. Tip number 5, let's talk about skills and stats. And we're actually gonna bounce in and out of this section as I cover other parts of the game. So first and foremost, as you gain levels in a particular stat or a skill, you're going to get a perk point. And you can come in here and select specific perks that'll help you do a wide variety of things. So it's definitely beneficial. Anytime you come over to the screen, you'll see down here, if you have an available perk point, you should be spending those pretty much as soon as you get them to make sure you're taking advantage of all of the awesome benefits. Now, as far as increasing these stats and skills, some of them I feel like basically increase on their own and you don't really have to worry about them. So specifically main level, vitality, speech, horsemanship, survival, and warfare, all of those are going to increase on their own pretty much based on all the things you have to do anyway. And so you don't have to wonder, all right, how am I manually going to make sure this skill gets to where I want it to be? Now, as far as starting with stats, the main decision you're going to need to make is, do you prefer to focus on strength or do you prefer to focus on agility? And I do think it's important to figure that out as early as you can. If you prefer to focus on strength, which is going to give you an advantage as far as being able to use heavy armor and heavier weapons, it's going to increase your carry capacity as well, and it's going to make stealth kills much easier. Then you want to make sure you're using weapons that depend on strength, because that's going to increase your strength skill, or strength stat rather, that much faster. If you would prefer to use agility, then that's going to make it much easier for you to do things like sprinting and sneaking. It's going to make you faster, and you're going to focus more on light armor and weapons. Now, in the first game, there was no question strength was the way you really needed to go, because from a combat standpoint, it was just so clearly superior to agility. That is not the case in the second game. They've significantly expanded on the dodge capabilities your character has, and you can tank multiple foes while wearing light armor, which wasn't nearly as viable in the first game. However, I personally still say strength is where you should focus, because of the functionality regarding my next tip, which is that you should dress to impress. So unlike the first game, KCD2 allows you to equip 3 different gear sets that you can distribute in pretty much whatever way you like. And there's a ton of advantages to doing this, but it's also going to add a significant amount of weight to your character. And consequently, the carrying capacity benefits from strength are going to be really advantageous for you. And that's why I kind of value strength over agility in this game. So what are the advantages? Well, you obviously want to have one gear set that is for combat. We don't need to explain that, right? You're going to be facing groups of sometimes 4 or 5 and maybe even 6 opponents at one time. You need a gear set that's going to help you be able to do that effectively. You also want a second gear set that is specifically for sneaking, because in order to sneak properly in this game, you need to make sure you have low ranks in conspicuousness, visibility, and noise. And that means even if you're a character who prefers to use light armor, having a full light armor set for combat is not the same as having a light armor set for sneaking. Those are totally different stats that you have to focus on. So you need to have a different gear set specifically for those times when you have to sneak around. And there are a lot of quests where that's going to be beneficial. Plus, there are times when the best way to take out a bandit camp is to sneak in and stealth kill enemies or drop some poison into their food and just let things happen automatically. Then for your third outfit, you're going to want to have something that's charisma based. Now, when you look at the dialogue stats, for persuasion and coercion, both of them use your speech stat as the main thing that decides whether or not these checks are going to succeed, and then charisma is secondary. Whereas for impression and domination, charisma is primary and speech is secondary. So basically for these 4 dialogue options, it's a combination of both your charisma and your speech that determines whether or not you're going to be able to succeed. So you really want to have high levels in both to ensure you're able to pass all of these checks. Keep in mind, charisma also plays a part in bartering. So anytime you're about to sell or buy items, it's also advantageous to be wearing your charisma suit so that you'll be able to get the very best prices possible. Also keep in mind that presence and intimidation can be used in order to persuade people, and these stats are both based on your gear, your strength, agility, and vitality. So it's all physical. So that way, even if you're using your combat set, you can still potentially persuade people. And these are the skills that usually come up when you're talking with bandits or you're out and about. So of course, you don't want to be caught in a combat situation while you're wearing your noble outfit. And so this allows you to stay in armor when you could potentially get jumped, while at the same time being able to persuade people if that's what you want to do. Since we're on the subject of persuading people, tip number 7 is keep your face and charisma outfit clean. People do not like talking to someone who they believe is musty. So anytime you know you're about to enter a dialogue conversation where you want to be able to persuade someone, stop by one of the wash bins and go ahead and wash your face real quick. Keep in mind that this only washes your face. It doesn't wash your entire body, and it doesn't wash your clothes. If you want to wash your clothes, you can launder them yourself with soap at specifically marked points on the map, or much easier, you can go ahead and visit the bathhouse, which will clean your body, clean your clothes, and provide other services if that's the type of thing you're into. You can also take a perk that will make the wash bin wash your entire body as well. In this same vein, you want to make sure that you keep your charisma clothes clean. So it doesn't really matter all that much if your armor is dirty, and consequently, at least so far in my playthrough, I don't get my clothes washed very often. But part of the reason that's the case is because I only use my charisma set when I'm running around to sell things or specifically to buy people and convince them of things. I don't just keep my charisma clothes on all the time because that's going to dirty them up and make them significantly less useful. So be careful about when you're using it. And if you notice that your set is dirty, go ahead and take the expense of making sure you get them cleaned up. And once those hands are nice and clean, I would appreciate it if you use them to go ahead and hit the like button. If you've been enjoying this content thus far, I plan to do a lot more Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 content over the next few weeks. So if there's any specific videos you want to see, please make sure to leave me a comment down below and let me know. Tip number 8, I highly recommend that you focus on alchemy. The system is significantly smoother than the first game. I enjoy it infinitely more, and having high alchemy levels is going to help you in a ton of different ways. You're going to be able to heal while out in the field or in combat much easier. It's going to significantly boost your stats. It can let you see in the dark during some of those thieving situations, and you can debuff enemies. As you get deeper in alchemy, it's going to allow you to craft multiple potions at one time. Make sure that you get a pouch so that you can use multiple potions out in the field without having to go into your inventory. Some potions can be applied to weapons, both melee and range. So the lullaby potion is going to drain enemies' energy, causing them to become immobile. This is incredibly useful to place on your arrows, as it'll just completely down an opponent and make the group much easier to deal with. Doll Maker prevents an opponent from being able to run and reduces their weapon skills while also lowering the health. I love putting this on melee weapons. Very, very effective. Bane is going to cause severe health degradation over time. It's not quite as effective as far as coating your weapon, but if you can get it into the food that your enemies are eating, like if they have a pot that they're all eating from, you can wipe out an enemy camp without having to lift your weapon. Very, very advantageous. It is great to be able to craft all of these. Tip number 9, use your repair kits. So craftsmanship is definitely a skill you're going to want to increase because it allows you to craft the very best gear in the game that is not available from buying it in vendors or looting it out in the world. Now, there are 4 different aspects of craftsmanship. You've got laundering clothes, blacksmithing, sharpening weapons, and repair kits. As I've already mentioned, I think laundering clothes on a regular basis is unnecessary, and so it feels like a time waste. Bathhouses are preferable. Blacksmithing is obviously very advantageous. You want to create your own weapons, but trying to blacksmith the same weapons over and over and over again in order to build this skill is very time consuming in a way that isn't really advantageous to you. In my personal opinion, repair kits are the best way to do it. And I would actually recommend, even though this is definitely expensive, so you can't do it at the beginning of the game, but I would recommend that you repair everything that you pick up. Everything that you pick up, go ahead and repair it up to 100, and you're absolutely going to churn through kits, and you're going to have to buy more constantly, but it's also going to shoot this skill through the roof, and it's going to ensure you're able to repair higher level gear, which is very, very important if you want to use the very best gear on a regular basis. Once you get to the point that you can take on enemies on a regular basis, money is not going to be nearly as much of an issue for you anymore. So while this probably doesn't seem feasible for the first 5 to 10 hours, very quickly it will be. And then absolutely, I recommend again that you just repair everything that you get on a regular basis. Also keep in mind that gear that you have repaired with a kit does not need to be sharpened, and there are lots of buffs for gear that you have repaired yourself. Tip number 10, live off beer and honey. So you have to eat to restore your nourishment on a regular basis. There are beehives outside of a couple of the towns that will provide you honey in large stacks, and each piece of honey will restore 31 nourishment, which is honestly a massive amount. If every time your nourishment gets low, you just eat some honey and then drink a couple of things of beer or wine, not only is it going to keep you well fed, but it's also going to steadily increase your drinking skill. And there are a lot of advantages to having high ranks in drinking. So when you drink alcohol, it's going to start with a positive phase that increases strength, agility, charisma, and speech by up to +4. And then it's going to enter a negative phase that decreases all those stats by -2, along with vitality and scholarship. The higher your drinking skill is, the longer the positive phase will be, and the shorter the negative phase will be. Also, you're going to get perks that will allow you to drink more potions. It'll make lockpicking easier, and it's going to make you better in unarmed combat. So personally, I would recommend that you just go ahead and lean into whenever you need to nourish yourself. Hey, just nourish yourself off of beer and use a little bit of honey to tap off the rest, and frankly, you'll be totally fine. You will almost never need to hunt to get food for yourself. The only thing that you'll have to worry about is making sure that you have meat for your dog. And most times, between killing other people and looting things out in the world, you'll be able to find more than enough meat to keep Mutt satiated anyway. Tip number 11, reading is fundamental. So I highly recommend you go ahead and invest into scholarship, because it's going to ensure that all of your skills are leveled up much faster. And so you're going to get perks that will allow you to ensure all of these skills go up much higher. Now, anytime you get a book, you're going to have to set aside some time, either sitting on a bench or sitting on your bed, to make sure you're comfortable and that you're going to get an increase in how fast you're able to study. I would recommend you go ahead and read that book or study it so that you can get that information and get scholarship up as high as possible. Keep in mind, there's two types of books. So there's the lore books that you can just open up and they're automatically considered to be read, so you can close them and move on about your day. And then there are the study books that you'll actually have to open up, and then you can press E to start a study menu, and then it'll take probably 2 to 4 hours in order for you to fully study whatever that book has available. Anytime you get some of those study books or you buy them, and I do recommend that you buy them when you can, go ahead, open them up, get those buffs, because you never know when one of those books will go ahead and provide you a perk point. So the sooner you can get access to that, the better. Also, keep in mind that there are multiple quests that you can resolve faster if Henry already has a certain level of scholarship and can easily read or decipher certain things. Tip number 12, don't skip leg day. So I mentioned before that I feel like survival pretty much levels up on its own. Whether you're picking herbs or you're hunting game or you're drying, smoking, or cooking food, it's just going to keep rising and rising and rising. And once again, I'm not a person who hunts all that often at all, and yet still it's at 20 just because of all the other things that I'm doing. So most likely you're going to get levels in this, you're going to get perk points in this, and when you do, you want to make sure you go ahead and pick up leg day. And this is going to ensure that whenever you're collecting herbs, you'll also gain a small amount of experience and strength. I've already mentioned how awesome strength is. You're going to need to pick a ton of herbs in order to get better at alchemy, because fresh herbs are best. There are levels to what kind of potions you can craft. So being able to pick those herbs and potentially dry them as well is going to help you in alchemy while doubling up on the increase that you're getting in survival. So definitely pick up leg day, and then as you're in the process of increasing alchemy, you'll be increasing strength as well. Tip number 13, pick all the locks you can. So in my opinion, lock picking is harder in this game than it was in the first game. In the first game, once I got the Lucky Drunk perk and could just take a drink before I needed to pick a lock, I could pick even frankly very hard locks right from the beginning of the game. It wasn't that big of a deal at all. This game is the complete opposite. When I get that pop-up saying, hey, this lock is too difficult for you, it really is too difficult for me. And so it's very, very important that if you want to get better at lock picking, you need to seek out those locks that you're capable of picking and then go ahead and pick them. So at the start of the game, every time you're running across a very easy lock, go ahead and take the time to open it up. Even if you don't bother to steal the items in it, it's still going to benefit your thievery skill to go ahead and open that lock up. And then later on, when you get to medium or hard locks that you want to get into, you'll have the skill in order to be able to do that. There won't always be an opportunity to pickpocket or loot the key off of someone else so that you can get into those chests. Also keep in mind there's a speech perk you can get that activates every time you sell stolen goods, and it's going to increase your stealth and your thievery experience. So stealing items and then selling them to different vendors slowly is going to help your other skills as well. All the more reason for you to lockpick everything you can. Tip number 14, choose your weapon. So there's a bunch of different weapon options in the game, and each of them have specific uses. So swords are great against unarmored opponents. They have a full range of motion, so you can go left, right, down, or above with them, which no other weapon is capable of doing. And they are capable of using martial strikes, which are typically unblockable counterattacks. And the only other type of weapon that can do this is unarmed. So all the way around, swords are really, really cool. Maces allow you to bash heavy armor, so it's great against heavily armored foes and foes who are carrying shields. And there's a lot of them in the game. They could be really tough opponents, so maces or other heavy weapons are absolutely worthy to consider. Pole arms have longer reach than most weapons, and so they're going to allow you to keep enemies further away. It's great against wolves and some of the other opponents that are using shorter weapons as well, and can help you finish fights completely untouched. Unarmed strikes dominate in clinches, which can occur a lot while you're fighting close range, and similar to swords, they're capable of martial strikes, so they're absolutely a worthy weapon choice throughout the game. And then finally, you have marksmanship. Do not sleep on this at all. We're going to talk about it again in a bit. Ranged weapons can decimate foes who are out of reach and make combat frankly trivial if you can get this up to high ranks. Make sure that you get a decent belt so that you can equip multiple weapons. I believe the highest level belts allow you to equip up to 4 different weapons of your choice. And so it's nice having that versatility to switch between whatever you want. Keep in mind as well that there is something to be said for sticking with just one weapon and trying to specialize in a particular area. Me personally, I only use swords and bows, and so you can make a decision about what type of setup works best for you. Tip number 15, use fists, not words. So we already talked about unarmed fighting, and that is very beneficial. But I would say you should invest in unarmed fighting, even if that's not the main way that you want to fight, because there are a lot of different quests or activities you can do that involved unarmed fighting. And so having higher levels in it, along with knowing a few combos, is going to make those sections significantly easier. There are also some situations where you have to fight, but you don't want to kill the opponent, like maybe a noble who's gotten upset with you in the middle of town. Then once again, having a little bit extra knowledge in unarmed fighting is going to help those fights go significantly smoother. A lot of the perks in unarmed fighting also help you to be a better combatant when you're in the clinch, which is going to help you all the way around. And it'll help make your stealth kills easier, which is absolutely beneficial because there's nothing worse than trying to stealth kill someone and then they push you away. So all the way around, I would say that this is worth investing into on a secondary level in addition to whatever the main way you choose to fight. Tip number 16, don't ignore archery. Let's circle back to that. You really want to experiment between bows and crossbows and later guns to determine which one you like the best. Bows are quicker, but they're weaker. Crossbows are way more powerful, but they're very slow to reload. I haven't gotten around to playing with guns yet because they come much later, but it seems like you use them more close range and they can impact multiple people. For right now, I prefer to use bows because as you level up marksmanship and get some of the perks that make it more damaging, I find that being able to reload faster and pop off more shots is just much more beneficial to my playstyle. But regardless, sneaking up to an enemy group and downing at least 1 or 2 of them before they're able to get into melee range is going to significantly increase your survivability. And what's really cool as well is as you get Hound Masters ranked up, you can send Mutt into the group and he can help distract those enemies, giving you even more time to pop off shots and frankly, potentially wipe out entire groups before they even start running towards you. So all the way around, you really want to increase marksmanship and take your time with it. And that actually brings me to my next tip. Make sure you're competing in archery tournaments. When you're running around, every so often you'll see a few stands for archery targets, and usually there'll be a game master nearby who you can speak with, and he'll set up a tournament, usually for a very small amount, anywhere from a 10 to 45 groschen. It's absolutely worth you stopping into every one of these tournaments that you can and using your bow. The reason for that is in fights, you're not going to be letting off 50, 70, 80 shots. It should only be a couple of shots before most likely enemies are going to swarm in on you and then the fight's over. So a lot of your leveling of marksmanship actually happens outside of combat. And then in combat, you experience the fruits of your labor. Now, some people like to shoot at animals or do that type of thing in order to level up their skill with a bow. I don't like doing that. I don't like killing animals in games unless I absolutely have to. In my opinion, these marksmanship tournaments are a much better way for you to get that practice. I almost always increase my marksmanship ranking anytime I go ahead and compete in them. And also keep in mind that using your bow is going to increase your agility, it's going to increase your strength. A whole lot of different things go into using a bow. So just all the way around, competing in these tournaments is a great way to level up your stats and skills, and you should be doing it on a regular basis. And in a similar vein, tip number 18, seek out the trainer. So early in the game, you're going to get a quest to speak with a sword master who can hopefully help train you. You definitely want to do this ASAP if you plan to specialize in swords or unarmed combat, because he's going to teach you how to do martial strikes, and it will unlock that person as a trainer. Now, trainers work differently in this game compared to the first one. In the first game, you could train each skill as a beginner, apprentice, or advanced level. And then if you train, like let's say at a beginner level for a skill with one trainer, it would take away that option for all other trainers in the game. You could only train that way once. That's not the way it works in KCD2. In KCD2, each specific trainer has the list of things that they will train either at a beginner or apprentice level or even higher. And what you have done with one trainer has no impact in regards to what's available with another trainer, which means you can train at a beginning level for a skill multiple times with multiple people, allowing you to significantly increase the rank of that particular skill. Obviously, that's very advantageous. So you want to make note anytime you see that someone is a trainer, go ahead and find out what specifically do they train in and how much would it cost. Keep in mind, this is also how you can unlock combos. Many of those trainers will not only increase your skills, but also they might teach you a combo for a certain amount of groschen. Also keep in mind that some of these trainers will do this for free. So always take the time to click on, hey, can you teach me something? And then if they say they'll teach you something and there's no dollar amount next to it, that probably means you've done a quest or you have a certain amount of reputation, or there's some reason this trainer is just willing to help you out and do you a favor. Go ahead and click on the option so that you can get that free level up. Tip number 19, open a small business. So early in the game, money is going to be a serious issue, and you should play around, experiment, and figure out what is your personal favorite way to make money. In my opinion, there's 4 ways. There's probably more, but there's 4 ways that I think are obvious as far as how you can make money consistently. First and foremost, you could blacksmith, right? You could make your own weapons and then sell them to the blacksmith and try to turn a profit that way, since the weapons that you sell would be significantly more expensive than the materials required in order to create them. I personally don't recommend this. I think it's very slow, and I think the return on investment isn't worth it. Again, blacksmithing is fantastic to make sure you are able to use the very best equipment possible, but I don't think you should make use of it in this way. The second option is selling potions that you make in alchemy. This is a fantastic option. The very first recipe you get in the game is a great one to use for just making the same potion over and over and over and over and over again, and sell it to a vendor. It's going to significantly increase your alchemy. It'll increase survival because of all the herbs that you have to pick. You can also get a perk that'll allow you to sell the potions for an even higher amount. This is a great, easy, free way for you to be able to make income early in the game if that's what you want. The next option is to hunt. So you can hunt animals and you can sell their skins or sell their meat, and it'll provide you with more gold. Now, the first issue with this is you have to get a bow before you're able to do this. And depending on how thorough you are and where you search, it might take a while before you have one available. But even once you get one, keep in mind that hunting animals in areas where you are not authorized, which will be pretty much everywhere at the beginning of the game, is considered poaching. So the items will be considered stolen and most vendors will not purchase them. So we'll get more into that in a minute, but you're going to have to carefully select where it is you're going to sell those items. Keep in mind, if you invest in this, then you can pick up perks that'll allow you to take even more from animals when you kill them, and so you'll be able to rack up significantly more gold every time you hunt. I strongly prefer alchemy because I think it's just so much easier to jump right into, and it's pretty much equal in terms of gold, but some people might absolutely prefer being out and about and being able to hunt, so this option is available to you. And then the last option for getting gold that is my personal favorite, but it takes a while before you can get to the point that you could do this on a regular basis, is farming bandits. So anytime that I fast travel and I get stopped by a random encounter, I always take the option to go ahead and stop. And there are a lot of random encounters where you'll get jumped by bandits. I'm always hoping somebody is going to do something stupid, because that means I can eviscerate all of them and then take all their stuff and sell it. And I'll also be able to repair their stuff along with repairing my stuff. So it's going to increase my craftsmanship. I'm going to sick my dog on them, so it increases Houndmaster. All kinds of stuff that'll just increase my ranks while at the same time netting me a massive amount of gold. Again, it takes a minute before you've got the proper equipment where you can do this safely on a regular basis, but once you can, to me, undoubtedly, it's the best way to really farm gold, because you're doing it within the game. Like, I don't have to go out of my way for 30 minutes or an hour and try to do something separate. In the process of trying to get to wherever the next quest is taking me, I just take out a few bandits and make a bunch of gold along the way. So play around, try to figure out what is your preferred method for earning gold in this game, and then be prepared to lean into it as the situation requires. And then in that same mindset, my very last tip for this video: know your vendors. So anytime you walk into a new town, you want to go ahead and run around towards all of the different buildings that you see on the map to make sure you unlock all the vendors. I just had a situation on my live stream where I was 15, maybe 20 hours into the game, and I walked by the building that's in the very, very first town that you get to, and all of a sudden a butcher shop unlocked. I never knew that there was a butcher all the way on the right side. So it's really important that you go ahead and take the time to do that, because those vendors do not automatically unlock. And once you've done that, you can go into the map. There is a left-hand guide that you can use so you know what all of the different icons mean. But understand that each of these vendors are going to buy and sell specific types of things for you, right? So carpenters are going to sell marksman related equipment, bows and arrows and things of that nature. Tailors are going to sell clothes, and they'll sell tailor kits as well. Blacksmiths are going to sell armor, and that's what they'll buy as well. Fencers will buy anything, including anything that's stolen. So when you need to just dump a ton of gear, usually you're going to want to visit a fence first. And then there are more general vendors who you can sell a lot of things to as well. So keep in mind, I said fencers will buy stolen gear. There are other types of vendor who will buy stolen gear, but oftentimes they'll only do it at half price. So it's preferable for you to specifically sell your stolen gear to a vendor that will actually give you the full price for it. And that is my full video. Those are all 20 tips that I felt like right up front players would want to know to help give them the smoothest time possible with this game. Hopefully you all enjoyed it and found it informative. Again, if there's additional content that you all want to see from the channel in regards to this game, please by all means let me know down below. I'd be happy to assist. I hope you all enjoy this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.